Mother-in-law splashed wine on me, while my husband's relatives laughed, recalling how I lived in poverty, and called me a penniless hick. But everyone fell silent when the restaurant announced, "Meet the owner of this establishment." And before we continue, write in the comments from which country you're watching the video, and also check if you're subscribed to the channel, as I share interesting life stories with you every day. Okay, let's enjoy the story. Emily sat at the long table, trying not to draw attention to herself. The massive chandelier overhead seemed to press down with its dazzling glow, reflecting off the polished glasses that shone like mirrors. She felt out of place in this world of expensive suits, stiff smiles, and disdainful glances. James, Emily's husband, sat beside her, chatting animatedly with Uncle Bob about some financial schemes. He seemed completely oblivious to her discomfort. Around them, guests buzzed with chatter, toasting James's father on his milestone birthday. Loud cheers rang out, glasses clinked, and the air was thick with the scent of pricey perfumes and gourmet dishes. But Emily tasted only bitterness and humiliation. She had come from a tiny rural town where life flowed slow and simple, where folks knew each other from birth and shared joys and sorrows equally. Here, in this realm of wealth and hypocrisy, she was just an accessory to James, the country wife, as her mother-in-law, Patricia Harrington, had dubbed her in her mind. Patricia Harrington, a woman with an icy stare and a sharp tongue, had despised Emily from the start. She believed James deserved a better match. A girl from their elite circle, educated, refined, and, of course, wealthy. In her eyes, Emily was nothing but a simple peasant, unworthy of their family. Throughout Emily's marriage to James, Patricia never missed a chance to jab at her, to humiliate her, to remind her of her impoverished past. "Well, Emily dear, adjusting to city life? Everything must be so new to you?" she'd ask with a fake smile, knowing full well each word cut deep. Today's birthday celebration was yet another ordeal. Emily tried to stay on the sidelines, avoiding conversations, steering clear of the spotlight. She knew any word from her, any wrong move, would be weaponized against her. She watched silently, as if viewing a movie about someone else's life. "Look at that, our little Emily's getting bored," came Aunt Susan's syrupy voice, Patricia's sister. "Country parties are probably more fun." "Yeah, Emily. Back there it's accordions and singing till dawn." The guests at the table snickered. Emily felt the blood rush to her face. She wanted to snap back, but words failed her. She knew any defense would be seen as weakness. "Come on, Susan," Uncle Bob interjected, Aunt Susan's husband. "Emily's a modest girl. Not everyone's a chatterbox like you." But his words didn't ease the tension. Emily felt like a caged animal, surrounded by predators ready to tear her apart. She endured in silence. She knew something. They didn't. She had worked hard, studied, mastered accounting and management. She didn't flaunt her achievements or boast about her skills. She was building her strength, waiting for the right moment to show what she was capable of. She remembered arriving in the city for the first time, timid and unsure. She felt like an ugly duckling among swans. But she didn't give up. She realized only through relentless effort and knowledge could she prove her worth. She started as a cleaner in a small restaurant on the city's outskirts. The job was grueling and dirty, but she didn't complain. She saw it as just a stepping stone toward her goal. She performed her duties meticulously, missing no detail. She was precise, reliable, and hardworking. Soon, the restaurant's accountant, an elderly woman named Eleanor Wilson, noticed her. Eleanor saw potential in Emily and offered to teach her accounting. Emily eagerly agreed. She arrived early and stayed late after shifts to learn from Eleanor. She grasped new concepts quickly and soon became Eleanor's indispensable assistant. She mastered the computer, learned accounting software, and even started preparing reports. When Eleanor retired, Emily took her place. She became the head accountant. Now she handled all financial operations, tracked income and expenses, filed tax returns. She worked tirelessly, determined to justify the trust placed in her. She knew the restaurant's success depended on her efforts. And now, sitting at this table, surrounded by people who scorned her, she felt confident and strong. She knew she wasn't just a country wife, she was a successful accountant, a professional in her field. But her thoughts were interrupted by Patricia's loud voice. The mother-in-law raised her glass and addressed the guests. "Dear guests, I want to raise a toast to my beloved husband, father, and grandfather," she proclaimed. "He's our pride, our pillar, our hope. And of course, I want to thank all of you for gathering here today to share this wonderful celebration." The guests applauded. Patricia took a sip of champagne and continued. "And naturally, I can't skip a few words about our dear daughter-in-law, Emily." She shot Emily a contemptuous glance. Emily's a simple country girl, but she tries so hard to be useful to our family. Right, Emily, dear? Emily felt her cheeks flush. She wanted to sink through the floor. "Yes, I try," she replied quietly. "See?" Patricia went on. "She tries, but unfortunately it doesn't always work out. Oh well, the main thing is the effort. We'll help her, teach her, guide her. Right, dear guests?" The guests snickered again. Emily felt humiliated and insulted. She wanted to stand and leave, but she couldn't. She feared disappointing James. Patricia kept talking, mocking Emily in her background. She shared funny stories about Emily's first time in the city, how she didn't know how to use a fork and knife, how she mixed up names of expensive wines. Emily listened in silence, hiding her emotions. She knew Patricia was doing this deliberately to shame her in front of everyone. And then, like a bolt from the blue, something Emily never expected happened. In her slurring speech, Patricia accidentally splashed wine from her glass onto Emily. The red wine soaked Emily's white dress. She yelped in surprise. The guests froze for a moment, then burst into laughter. Someone even pulled out a phone and started recording. "Oh, sorry, Emily dear," Patricia said with feigned regret. "It was an accident. I just wanted to toast your country charm." The laughter grew louder. Emily felt tears welling up. She could endure no more. This was the final straw. Years of pent-up contempt boiled over, burning her from within. She could no longer play the role of the quiet, submissive wife. She had to change something, and she knew this was her moment. The MC, who had been keeping the festive mood alive until then, cleared his throat into the microphone, drawing everyone's attention. The music faded, leaving only a faint hum of chatter that quickly died down in anticipation. He paused, scanning the room as if gauging the impact of what was coming. "Dear guests," he began in a polished voice, "before we continue our celebration, allow me to make one important announcement." Patricia, still smugly rubbing her hands over her successful wine stunt, narrowed her eyes at the MC. She thought she had full control, that Emily was firmly put in her place. James, glancing awkwardly at his wife, tried to discreetly wipe the red stains from her dress, but Emily pulled away, as if ignoring his attempts. "Today, on this special day," the MC continued, "we're thrilled to welcome not just the honoree, but also the new owner of this fine restaurant." Silence fell over the room. Forks halted midway to mouths. Glasses stopped clinking. All eyes turned to the MC, trying to grasp his meaning. Patricia frowned. What new owner? This restaurant had always belonged to her good acquaintance, Charles Davenport. Had he sold it without telling her? "Please welcome," the MC announced solemnly, "Emily Carter." The silence became deafening. Emily, who had seemed so submissive and invisible until now, slowly rose from her seat. She gently dabbed her face with a napkin, as if wiping away the last traces of humiliation, and stood tall. Her eyes held no hint of embarrassment or fear, only calm assurance. She looked at her husband, at his bewildered face, and a flicker of pity crossed her gaze. Then she turned to Patricia, whose face had paled, and a faint smile tugged at Emily's lips. Slowly and gracefully, like a queen accepting her rightful crown, Emily walked to the microphone. Each step, each movement brimmed with dignity and power. She was no longer the downtrodden country girl they all despised. She was transformed. She took the microphone from the stunned MC's hands and surveyed the room. Everyone waited for her words, holding their breath. "Yes, it's true," Emily said calmly. "I'm the new owner of this restaurant." A murmur swept through the room. Patricia clutched her chest. James stared at his wife as if seeing her for the first time. "I won't spin a heart-wrenching tale about dreaming of this since childhood," Emily continued. "That would be a lie. I'll just tell you how it really happened." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "When I arrived in the city, I had nothing but a desire to work and learn. I started here as a cleaner. Yes, that's right. I mopped floors, took out trash, and cleaned up after you. Her gaze swept over the guests' faces while you enjoyed fine food and good company. Some guests blushed, averting their eyes. Patricia tried to speak, but the words stuck in her throat. But I didn't complain, Emily went on. I knew it was my chance. I watched the accountants, how they tracked finances and managed money, and I decided I could do it too. She smiled, recalling her early days in accounting. I studied at night after work, read books, watched tutorials, took lessons from tutors. It was tough, but I didn't quit. I knew it was the only way to change my life. Her voice rang steady and composed, without a trace of gloating or resentment. She was simply stating facts. After a while, they offered me an accounting position. I worked hard and honestly, and soon I was promoted to head accountant. I learned every nuance of the restaurant business, understood it from the inside out. She glanced at Patricia again, a spark in her eye. Then, when Charles Davenport decided to sell, I saw my opportunity. I took out a bank loan, she emphasized the word, and bought it. Silence hung heavy once more. Now everyone understood what had happened. Emily, the so-called country bumpkin they scorned, had proven herself not just smart and talented, but incredibly driven and resilient. I didn't tell you before, Emily continued, because I saw no need. I was just doing my job. But today, after what happened, I decided you should know the truth. She paused, letting it sink in. I don't want revenge on anyone, she said finally. I just want you to know I'm not what you think. I am me, and I'm proud of who I am. She set the microphone down and walked back to her seat. Patricia sat at the table, frozen like a statue. She couldn't believe what she'd heard. How had this girl, this hick, outmaneuvered her? How had she achieved such success with nothing but grit? James looked at his wife like she was from another planet. He'd always seen her as quiet and compliant, content as a wife and homemaker. He'd never glimpsed this strength and confidence that emerged today. He realized he barely knew her. Patricia had gone as pale as a ghost. Her hands, which had just gripped a champagne glass, now clutched the table edge desperately. Her face, usually haughty and assured, wore a mask of utter shock and confusion. James sat nearby, thunderstruck. His mouth hung open, but no sound emerged. He gazed at Emily as if meeting her anew. Disbelief swirled in his eyes, mixed with tentative admiration, and perhaps even fear. The guests, who had been lively and laughing moments ago, froze in awkward silence. Forks and knives paused over plates. Half-empty glasses lingered in hands. No one knew where to look. It felt like the music, softly playing before, had suddenly stopped, leaving only a ringing quiet. Everyone shifted uncomfortably, as if they'd overheard a private spat or witnessed something indecent. Emily sat back down calmly, not on the edge like before, trying to fade away. Now she claimed her spot beside James, the hostess's place. Her movements held no triumph, no spite, just poise and certainty. She straightened her back, adjusted her dress, and looked at James. Her gaze carried no reproach or hurt, just a statement. This is me, the me you never knew. James felt insignificant. For the first time in their marriage, he grasped how little he understood his wife. He'd always viewed her as a meek, modest country girl, lucky to marry him. He thought he provided her a comfortable life, that she owed him gratitude. But now, watching her, he saw he'd lived in delusion. Emily was strong, independent, and ambitious, a woman who'd achieved everything on her own. And he, James, was just a passerby in her journey. He tried to speak, but words failed him. Shame washed over him. Shame for himself, his family, how they'd treated Emily. He recalled every jab, every belittling glance, every attempt to crush her spirit. And now he knew she'd endured it all in silence, waiting for her moment. Patricia finally snapped out of it. She tried to mask her confusion with her usual arrogance. "What kind of stunt is this, Emily?" she hissed through gritted teeth, feigning calm. "You think we'll buy this Cinderella fairy tale?" Emily met her gaze steadily. "It's no fairy tale, Patricia. It's my life, and I'm done hiding it from anyone. You bought this restaurant? With what money?" Hysteria crept into Patricia's voice. "I worked, studied, saved, took risks, And yes, I bought this restaurant, and now I have every right to be here. Patricia snorted disdainfully. You think money makes you our equal? You'll always be a peasant. No restaurant changes that. Emily smiled. I'm not trying to be your equal anymore, Patricia. I just want to be myself, and I don't care what you think. At that moment, a waiter approached and offered Emily a wine selection. Without hesitation, she named a vintage she'd always loved but could never afford. The waiter bowed politely and left. Patricia shot Emily a hateful glare but said nothing. She knew any word now would sound pathetic and absurd. She'd lost. The evening went on. Guests slowly recovered and resumed talking, but the vibe had shifted. Tension and awkwardness lingered. Everyone sensed something pivotal had occurred, that things would never be the same. James stayed by Emily's side all night. He tried to talk, but she responded curtly and distantly. He felt a chasm between them, one he didn't know how to bridge. Emily, meanwhile, ignored him mostly. She wasn't angry anymore, just tired and relieved. She'd proven to everyone, and above all, to herself, that she mattered, that she could succeed against all odds, that she was a strong, independent woman. She raised her glass and proposed a toast. I want to thank everyone here today, especially those who never believed in me. You gave me the drive to push forward. Thank you. Silence fell again. Everyone knew who those words targeted. Emily sipped her wine and looked at James. Her eyes held neither love nor hate, just calm assurance. She was free. Free from others' opinions. Free from grudges. Free from the past. She was the master of her own life. Later, as guests began to leave, Patricia approached Emily. You think you've won? She whispered venomously. You're wrong. You'll never be part of our family. Emily shrugged. I never aimed to be. Patricia turned and stormed off, leaving Emily alone. Emily watched her go and smiled. She knew Patricia would never understand her, but she didn't need that. What mattered was understanding herself. She stayed at the table alone. Soft music played in the hall. Waiters cleared dishes. City lights twinkled outside. Emily felt exhausted, but joyful. She'd walked a long, hard road, but she'd made it. She'd shown everyone she was worth something, and now she could face the future with pride. James returned to the table. He sat beside Emily and took her hand. I'm proud of you, he said softly. Emily looked at him and smiled. Thanks, James. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she knew one thing. She'd never let anyone humiliate her again. She'd live life on her terms, and she'd be happy. James squeezed her hand tighter. He realized he had much to learn about Emily, and he was ready. He wanted to stand by her, support her, love her. He wanted to prove he deserved her. The evening ended. Emily and James left the restaurant and got in the car. They drove in silence. Each lost in thought. Emily gazed out the window. Stars shone in the night sky, and she felt everything was just beginning. All right. Thanks for listening.